Hello! Today in my video series I want to discuss lingual orthodontics bracket bonding. Many people are asking a lot of questions about the bracket bonding techniques. There are so many brackets in the market, so many systems, so many transfer trays. So I want to give you some basic rules on bracket bonding. And of course this is my own bracket bonding techniques. And my recommendation to you is always, if you use another technique which is good for you, continue with it. I just give you some tips and maybe some food for thought. First of all, let's talk about impression. I know that many of you are taking impression with this alginate material, which I hope they pour immediately into plaster. But I think that in lingual orthodontics, we many times need this tray, this impression, to be reproduced later. So I recommend you to do a PVS, a polyvinyl silicone impression. The impression is done by 2 layers. One layer is used by heavy material. I use the Zermac Elite material. There are many. The advantage of this Zermac Elite material is that it's very fast, and the taste is very convenient for the patient, and the price is not so high. So we use first the heavy part, and the heavy part is placed on the tray, and I put some plastic material on this heavy part, taking impression of the arch, upper or lower. Then after 2 minutes, when this is dry, we take the plastic out, we put the light material, and we put it in, and then we should get a very nice impression of the arch. Then we will get back from the laboratory, or we will do it ourselves, as we will see in a minute. We will have a tray that all the brackets, the lingual brackets, are inside. And there is a lot of question, what should we do? Should we bond the bracket, the tray in one piece? Should we cut it in the middle for 2 pieces? Should we cut it for 3 pieces? 1 front and 2 in the back. It all depends on how skilled your technique is, how fast are your assistant in putting all the bonding material, as we will see in a minute, and how your possibility to get a dry field. If you cannot get a proper dry field, it's better to section the tray to pieces and then look and see that you have a section which you dry nicely and you can bond it without any humidity. We should try in the tray, because many times there are some problems, there are some mistakes done in the laboratory or in the impression, or patient did some composite filling without telling you, so it's better to try in the tray. Then we have to prepare the patient properly by cleaning, etching, sandblast, yes or no, we will speak about it in few minutes. Etching, drying, having a dry field area. It can be with a NOLA dry system, it can be with a lot of other options that I will show you in a minute. Then we do conditioner on the composite pad. We will speak about all this procedure in a minute. Then prepare the individual teeth, if it is porcelain, amalgam or dentine, by different primers, and then we bond the tray. The art of finishing is actually the art of the beginning. This sentence I've heard once with from my good friend Dr. Filion, and I use it ever since. There are many types of tray. Some of them are opaque, done by silicone, which is not transparent. Some of it has numbers, if you get it from the laboratories, has numbers near every tooth and can be used later on individually in a very nice way. Some of them, like the upper right one, has 2 layers one hard layer and one soft layer, so it's very easy to take the hard out and then to peel the soft one, but it's not so easy to reuse it later if you have bracket failures. Now first I will show you how I do this tray in my office in a very simplified technique. This technique is done for cases where I don't send to laboratory and I want to do my indirect bonding myself. So I'll give you a step-by-step how to do it. The first step is to take a plaster model and to put some separator on the plaster model at least 6 hours prior to the bonding. Here you can see an example of separator liquid. This is Colmol Seal. And my assistant take a cotton plate and she put some liquid on all the lingual surfaces and she let it dry for 6 hours. The second is to mark long axis of the teeth and then horizontal line parallel to the incisal edge. As you can see here, you can see the cross done on every tooth. This is on the buccal side. Now you can see my assistant doing the same on the lingual side. One by one. Very important that to look at the model from various angles to see whether your line is really the long axis of the tooth. If necessary, of course, you can compare it to the panoramic X-ray to see if the tooth is abraded and needed to be upright. We have to check again all our long axis. Now we do the horizontal line in all the teeth, as you can see here. And we have now a good place where we can put the bracket. The next stage is to prepare your lingual bracket set, to take which brackets you are going to use, a paste and a primer. Okay, now most of the brackets have already mesh, so we don't need to clean it. But sometimes if the brackets are not that clean, we can take an acetone and clean the mesh to make sure everything is ready for bonding. Then we take a small amount of composite paste on the bracket mesh. I use a Transbond XT, which I find very nice and useful for me. You can use, of course, whatever you want. Then we put the bracket on the tooth according to the location we have marked before. We have the cross, so you can see here, and then before we do light cure, we clean all the excess of the paste, of the bonding paste, making sure that the bracket in the right position that we plan. Then we go for the next one. And in this way, we do all the brackets. My assistant is placing all the brackets and then she brings the model to me. I recheck everything. I still can change the position of the bracket because I didn't put light cure. And then once it is ready, we take light cure and we put light cure on all the teeth, all the bracket pads. As you can see here, light cure the same way you do in the mouth, one by one, 20 seconds for each tooth. And you can check that the bracket is really connected to the tooth, so you will not have problems when you do the tray. Now we check every bracket, see the strength of the bonding, trying to shake it, and if one bracket needs to be rebonded, we rebond the bracket. Once everything ready, now we can take, I use Memosil, which is transparent on the bracket, and we cover 2 millimeters below and above the bracket. This example shows you an option to do 2 layers of tray, the soft one and the hard one. Okay, you can smooth it by wetting your finger with water and then slowly modifying the tray to be as smooth and nice as possible. Then we can make a second layer of hard tray, putting in the mini star with the soft tray inside, and we can prepare another tray above it. This is done with special foil, done for around 1.5 minutes. And we have the tray inside, hard from the outside and soft from the inside. Now we will go to a movie that will show you exactly what we do in the tray when we bond it in the mouth. Now this movie I done in my office with an e-brace tray, but this can be done, of course, with every technique that you use, with every bracket system, and the procedure is the same. Once the bracket were modified in the laboratory and we got a tray, now I prepare a dry field in the mouth. I use these cotton rolls, which I'll explain you after we see the movie. I prepare my dry field. Now we do etching all over the teeth. I try to cover all the lingual side with etching in order to make sure that we have a good etching surface. On the same time, my assistant puts primer on the bracket. Why we put primer on the bracket? Because the bracket has now composite pad, and this composite need to have primer in order to be bonded to the enamel. So on the time that I do the etching and drying, the primer is already on the bracket pads. We do water and suction, we dry again, we change the cotton rolls to new ones, and we have a nice dry field. Checking every tooth to see that we have a nice preparation of this area, and if needed, of course, we can use sandblast. Now we put primer on every surface of the tooth, and now I put paste on the bracket pad. We will speak in a minute why I put paste and not liquid, but that's something I will explain you in a minute. We put the paste on the bracket pad, while I already put primer on the teeth. Now we put another second layer of primer on the paste. You remember, we put primer, then paste, then a second layer of primer. I will explain you all of it after we will finish the movie. Now I take the tray. As you can see, I put here everything in one piece. I didn't cut the tray into 2 or 3 pieces. I place the tray on the teeth. Then I try to use 2 light cures on the same time. This shorten the time of curing and also help you not to have tilting in the tray, because when you do only one side curing, sometimes the other side moves. We take the hard part of the tray out, and then slowly we peel the soft one that remained on the teeth. We peeled it out. Slowly, slowly. Okay, and now, that's very important, we light cure again, because we want to make sure that all the bonding material is cured properly. Now with the curette scaler, we take out all the excess of bonding material, and if in the case of e-brace there were also elastic modules on the bracket, we take the elastic modules out. We put the wire in the terminal tubes, the wire that we already got from e-brace or the wire that you bend yourself. You measure, you cut the excess of wire. We put the wire in the bracket slot. And then with elastic modules, one by one, we tie the wire into the bracket. Sometimes we should use an elastic ligature, metal ligature, in cases where we are afraid that the wire will go out of the slot. We cut the excess of the wire with a distal cutter. And many times after doing this cut, I use also a burr, a diamond burr, a flame, in order to cut it flush, meaning that there will be no chances for the wire to poke the tongue. You can of course do cinch back, but it's not so easy to do with nickel titanium wires. And many times after you do cinch back with nickel titanium wire, the wire slowly opens. We check the occlusion, and the bonding is finished. Now, let's go to some details of the bonding techniques. First, if something happened during the tray, during bonding the tray with the brackets, and one bracket falls, we can always cut the tray and make individual tray for individual tooth. The tray should and can be kept for later on when brackets fall, and you can do the same by cutting the tray and making an individual tray to bond one tooth or section of teeth. As you saw, I use for dry field, I use this cotton roll by Roeco. It's called Parotis roll. It has metal inside. It comes in two sizes, medium and large. And it's very nice to put in the parotis area and under the tongue to get a nice dry field without all the noise of multiple suctions in the mouth. Sandblast I use many times, but mainly on old composites, on amalgam restoration, or on porcelain surfaces. I have in my office this beautiful tool by ADEC. This is warm air tooth dryer. Many times our triple syringe of air and water has some oil inside or some drops of water, and therefore we have some problems in the bonding. It's very good also for composite restoration. It gives you a dry air pointed directly to the tooth, and it's very, very useful for bonding. I use different primers from different companies, of course. These are Reliance, but there are primers for porcelain, for plastic, and for metal. And now to the question why we use paste and not liquid. Theoretically, we should get from the laboratory, or when we prepare the tray with composite pad, we get a bracket which is perfectly fit the surface of the tooth, especially if it is done by e-brace, Incognito, or any other CAD/CAM company. So the distance between the bracket and the surface of the tooth should be almost zero, or few microns. So liquid like Maximum Cure, Sondi, and other liquid agents, bonding liquid agents, are perfect to do the bonding. But I realized throughout the years that there are two problems with the liquids, or let's say three problems. One is the shelf time. They are getting ready to use or expired very, very fast. And if you don't have a lot of lingual cases every week, then the price of this rise because you are not able to use it. The second is that it's very, very fast curing, so you have to be very good with your assistants to do all the preparation and putting the liquids before it's cured. And the third is, and to me the most important reason, is that many times we have some mistakes done in the tray for many, many reasons. And then the distance between the bracket and the surface of the tooth is more than few microns. And when it is more than few microns, this liquid agent is not good enough. It's not hard enough, and the bonding strength is very, very low, and we got a bonding failure. And this is why I use mainly a combination of primer and paste. And what I try to do is to be very, very minimal. I take very minimal paste, I wet it with primer. It can be, I use two primer, the one by 3M and the one by Omco, the Auto Solo, which are very good. So I wet the paste with the primer and create some liquid paste, which is very, very minimal. And my bonding failure is around 1 or 2%, which I think is quite good for every orthodontic bonding procedure. You have to use sometimes some coverage of the lingual side of the bracket, either the hooks or the bracket itself. There are many materials that can be cured with light cure and still stay soft, like soft composite or the barricade, or wax, of course, that help the patient to get used to the brackets. Sometimes we have hooks which are pointed to the tongue, so sometimes it's better to cut them. And also these wires, especially in extraction cases, are very, very painful for the tongue and should be covered by plastic sleeve that help protecting the tongue from touching this part. In lingual orthodontics, I try also to delay the extraction until I have good alignment, also for the reason of aesthetic. And sometimes we have to do stripping. I also try to do stripping for this tooth that I want to extract, and then move the teeth and then extract it later on, again for purpose of aesthetics. Sometimes we have to build a temporary pontic when we do extraction. I tried in the last years to extract second premolars, so I don't need to build any pontics, but if you do need, it's very easy to do it with a simple composite. I don't recommend to do it too nice, because when you do it too nice, then patient get used to it, and then he demands that during whole treatment he will have a beautiful pontic. If patient demands it, I send him to the prosthodontist to do it himself. That's an example of doing this pontic during extraction, and you minimize it when you retract the teeth. I want to thank you very much. You can approach all the movies that we are making in my website, drromano.com, in the YouTube, we have a channel, and in the Facebook. I want to thank you, and I'll see you again in my next movies.